Okay, so this is going to be a video about restoring a rusted sword. A friend let me borrow this blade of his to clean it up a bit. I'm not sure if you can see the rust off of it, but basically his water heater, the hot water tank, burst up and broke, and he's got all this rust here. And today I'm going to try a little project, try and remove the rust and maybe reseal it later on. I read a few documentaries saying that sandpaper is going to be the best choice for cleaning it. And as you can see, like, this side's a bit more rusty. I started a little bit on this with a little bit of sandpaper and just your basic Hops 9 or whatever solvent you want to use. The reason why I chose Hops 9 was it's used to clean rust out of guns, and so you'll know it'll clean off of a sword. But you know, I'm just going to use some regular sandpaper and a brush to apply the hops onto it. And later on I'm going to use an oil. I've read that you can use any kind of oil, motor oil, but I'm going to use just, you know, W40 will also work apparently. I'm not really sure on that, but just going to clean this blade and then apply another cover on it to make sure it doesn't rust again. And I'm pretty much leaning towards the gun oil that I put on my Ruger, so that's pretty much it. I'm going to start working on it and we'll see what happens later on. Let's get started. First things first, a little bit of an advisory. When you're working with solvents, you want to make sure you wear gloves. Main reason because of that is that solvents can really mess with you. Try not to touch your eyes or get any on you, and if you do, wash it off, because it's not very good. If this stuff can remove rust, then no telling what it can do to your body. So don't touch your eyes, your nose, or whatever while you're working. And we're just going to apply a nice, decent coat. I'm going to go ahead and apply it on some of the stuff I've already worked on, this area right here. And I'm going to see how it goes. You can actually see, I'm not sure if my camera's good enough, but you can see the amount just being added here. You want to get a nice thick glossy coat on where you're going to work. And once you do that, let it set for just a few seconds. Usually when you're applying it, that's basically all you need, to my knowledge. So we've got our coat. Very simple. And you've got it in there. You just use your sandpaper, get to work on it. Notice that I'm going along with the blade because when you start working on this, you're going to get obviously scratches. The grit on sandpaper you want probably is around 600. That's what they usually do when they blacksmith. When they polish down your blade, they use a 600 grit sandpaper. I don't really care about that personally right now. I'm more about getting into and removing the rust. The more you work on it, the more you can see that the rust is actually coming off. You get this black, nasty liquid on. It's not very pretty, but it's more or less the way. And when you're doing this with sandpaper, the scratches are going to be up and down along with the blade, so it's not going to be as noticeable. If you're doing it from side to side or in circular motions, you're obviously going to get circular scratches. My friend tried a grinder with it before, so you can see a lot of that stuff here, and probably steel brushing it would not be a good idea either. Yeah, just a little bit of elbow grease, and you can see the nastiness off of that. Just a little bit of view for that. So, yeah, we're going to continue in this manner, and I'll show you the end product later on, but I'm going to stop the video right now and just get to work, because I'm pretty sure you guys don't want to see me just working on a blade with sandpaper. But yeah, that's how you kind of clean it. Okay, so I'm at the halfway point. Like I said earlier, my friend had used a grinder on this and it didn't really work too well. So I decided to go ahead and clean it for him using sandpaper and a rust removing solvent. This is the halfway point, like I just said earlier. You can obviously tell the difference in before and after. And since this is the halfway point, I'll go ahead and flip this over. Very, very obvious difference. It's just, this is how it looks, and yeah, so I'm going to continue in this manner, and you'll see the last ends of it if you want, but the other side will pretty much hopefully look exactly like this, and then we'll add the oil to keep it from rusting again. So both sides were now polished, clean. I had to use a different type of sandpaper than I was before. You can now tell that this is definitely a lot cleaner than before. The type of sandpaper I was using before, I just realized had been a wood sandpaper, so I switched over to a metal one for steel, and it cleaned a lot faster and harder. But you gotta be careful with the pressure, because you can put a lot of scratches into your metal. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a protective layer of oil for the sword, and I'm just going to use the same kind of oil I would use for my gun. It doesn't really matter, it's just to protect it from corroding, because like with steel products and similar other metals like copper and stuff, you will get that type of erosion going on. So all I'm going to do is apply a fine coat along it and then polish it and be done. So it's not going to be anything different besides that. So I'm sure my buddy is going to like this a lot. Thankfully he didn't try and use the grinder completely on this. It would have been a huge disaster. We probably would have had to get him a new blade or reforge it, depending on how bad it would have been. But he just used the lighter type of grinding just to see how it would work, and he found out it didn't. So, but also, you know, these blades, they have to be maintained a lot. If you have metal scabbards or such and you live on the seacoast, the air, the lime air, the salty sea air can actually get in the scabbard and ruin your blade. So always be aware of that. If you live on the seaside, you can actually take your sword out of the scabbard, and it's actually better for your sword to do that. So just a few things about that. And looks like this side's almost done. I'll probably apply another coat real quick, and then take this off to my friend's place, where he will probably be overwhelmed with joy. But you know, you just want a little bit of a thick coat Nothing too much. You don't want it to dribble all over your blade and then whatnot. Also, notice that you have to work on this in segments when you work on your blade and cleaning it and stuff. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but your solvents and stuff, they can actually mess with you if you don't have a good airing place. So in places with very bad ventilation, you want to take lots and lots of breaks. Just work in sections and apply multiple coats of solvent to help get that rust eaten away and work on different layers. And if you want to, you can pre-sand it before you add the solvents on there to kind of get rid of the sealant that these blades have been sealed with. Usually when you're forging a sword or a knife or anything, they'll temper it and heat it, and while the metal's still really hot, they'll dip it in oil, and that will actually put a coating on the blade that will keep it from turning bad and rusting, which is always nice. But since I don't actually have a forge just yet, I probably will build one soon, but since I don't, we're just doing this instead. If I did have a forge, this blade would have been just reheated and then resmithed and taken care of the good old-fashioned way. But it's just a little maintenance, nothing too special. And voila, your blade is done. Hope you guys found this enjoyable and very educational. Thank you.